Hey there, brilliant people. So here we are, New Year all over again. Well, it's a Chinese New Year. So 2025 is meant to be the year of the snake, and snakes are all about transformation. So how are we going to handle that one? So transformations are an interesting process to go through. And the whole science behind it, I mean, I do talk about it in my book, The Soul's Brain, but the whole science behind it is actually covered in something called dissipative structures by a guy called Ilya Prigogine. He got a Nobel Prize, but we don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to take you through what happens as we go through a transformative process, because it is a little bit different to change. With change, we can always change back. With transformation, once we've gone through the process, we just never go back. The example often used is once you've turned sugar into toffee, it can't go back to being sugar because it's now a completely different substance. It's changed, well, it's transformed. So if we can actually understand the stages of transformation, it helps us flow with it with a bit more ease and grace. And seeing as how next year, 2025, it's meant to be, the year of the snake is meant to all be about transformation, snakes, shedding their skin and all that kind of stuff. It seems to be a really good idea to talk about transformation and what's involved and what we need to do to support ourselves through it. So the first thing that happens with transformation, uncomfortably enough, is stress. So that stress is, they say no pain, no gain. It's just that our old system, it's kind of like with this, the snake sheds its skin because it's actually outgrown it. So it needs a new skin. Well, that's where the stress is coming from. It's like our old system, we've kind of outgrown it. So our old system is no longer working. And we know it's not working because things are now stressing us. And as that stress builds up, it's uncomfortable. So a lot of us, quite naturally, will tend to resist the stress. Now, I'm not saying that you should just let yourself be stressed. I am saying that you want to learn how to soothe yourself, how you want to support and nurture yourself when you are stressed, but you don't want to try to suppress it, because suppressing it, you're going it into complete resistance. And when we go into resistance, we end up using up all of our energy trying to stop what the stress is doing rather than taking care of ourselves. So, because the second thing that happens is as the stress starts to reach sort of certain critical levels, the old structure starts to break down. And so when we're trying to suppress the stress, we're actually resisting the old structure breaking down. And what that actually means is the stress will build up in our system, and we're using up all of our energy resisting the breakdown of the old structure, so that by the time it just builds up and things just kind of explode, a nervous breakdown or however it explodes, we don't have a lot of energy left to then rebuild the system. So this is why it's important to actually initially to soothe ourselves through the stress rather than resisting it. And again, when the old structure starts to break down, that can be kind of scary. So we want to find ways that we can feel a sense of safety. Now, whether that's working on our own capacity for self-trust, always a good thing to do. whether it's by leaning into our connections and our resources, like connecting with other people so that we feel like, okay, things are getting pretty wobbly right now, but I have these people in my life I can rely on. Or whether it's checking your finances, making sure that your finances are secure, like finding some area of safety in your life, because then when the old structure starts to break down, it won't be as scary. Because the third stage is we go into this complete uncertainty, because the old system is broken down, but the new system has not yet arrived or been created. And that is a state where we feel very uncertain. So this is where a lot of self-awareness can be really helpful. Because when you know who you are, the one thing that we can guarantee is that once you come out the other side of it, you're going to be even more of who you really are. Because in many ways, that's the whole purpose of transformation. And when we are in these uncertain periods, because like the certainty comes when we know the system, when we know how things are operating. So we tend to have a certain level of certainty when we're in the old system, because we understood that. And the certainty will come back once the new system has arrived, but that's going to be on the other side of all this uncertainty. So that's the other thing that we can do when we're in the midst of this chaos. And thing is, when I look around the world, never mind the snake year of 2025, it's almost like the whole world has been going through some very wobbly transformative process for quite a while now. So lots of people are feeling very wobbly. It's like we're in the middle of, this old system, which was, pre-internet, and when we could still all live in our own tribes. And sure, the internet might give you these sort of echo chambers, but on another level, the whole world is far more interconnected than it used to be, and we don't quite really know how to handle that yet. And so we're sort of between these two systems, because the old system was more like your industrial revolution stuff almost. And anyway, I'm getting off track. The point is, when we're between systems, that's a very wobbly space to be, because we don't really have any idea how things are going to operate. So there's a lot of uncertainty. But that's just when you're in the middle. So, one of the other things I talk about on this channel is dream symbols, for example. And the dream symbol that you are crossing from one stage of life to the next, meaning you're going through a big transformation, is actually a river. And it's a perfect symbol if you think about it, because this bank is all very stable, that bank is all very stable, but the river itself is constantly shifting, constantly changing. That's what a transformation is like. We go from this bank to that bank, and that's fine, but it's how do we get across the river? So that also gives you the clue as to how to manage that uncertainty. You want to actually focus on where you're going to be once you come out the other side of this transformation. Are you going to be healthier? Are you going to be wealthier? Are you going to be happier? Is your life going to be easier? Is like whatever it is. So in other words, one of the best things you can do is talk to the future version of you. Talk to yourself as you will be once you've completed this transformation, once you are on the other side, because that will help you feel a sense of certainty. Because it's, again, just like if you're having to swim across the river, it's a good thing to sort of try and focus on a particular part of the bank. Even if you get swept past it, if you know where you're aiming for, well, whenever you fetch up on the other bank, you can walk back to that point. The point is that once you have that focus and you know that, okay, things are wobbly right now, but once things get reorganized, this is how things are going to be. you may not have that certainty right now, but you will have that, but you'll have that certainty again in the future. And that can be enough for you to handle the current uncertainty when you're in the middle of a transformation with a little bit more ease and grace, because it helps you just feel more comfortable with what's going on, because you understand, oh, it's fine, I'm just in the middle of a transformation. Right, so the fourth step is that when we start to connect, when we first start to connect to the new template, the other side of the river, the new structure, and it's new. So you need to give yourself permission to take a little bit of time to get to know. In other words, once things have reorganized themselves, you're going to go through a period where you're not going to know how things operate as well as you did with the old system. And this is what happens when we outgrow the old. Whether it's like the snake, you literally have to sort of feel yourself in your own skin again. It's like things work a little bit differently. You know, think about, I don't know, the time you got a promotion at work, or the time that you moved houses, never mind moving, states or countries. Like every new place that we're in, like if it's a new house, I mean, okay, it has the same stuff. It has rooms, it has, a kitchen, it has a bathroom, it has lights, but it's all set up differently to the last house you were in. So it works a little bit differently. And, particularly if you move countries, then sometimes because of the culture, the houses can be that much different again. So just give yourself a sort of a grace period. As things start to reorganize, give yourself a grace period in which you get to know what the new thing is like. It's a learning period or a learning curve, if you like. And again, if you just keep focusing on that future self, the future version of yourself, once you really know how to handle all the new stuff, and and as you go on, acknowledge what you are learning as you are learning it. Again, you'll get through it with more ease and grace. Nurture yourself through it. And then the fifth stage is when you're really fully connected to the new organization, the new structure. You've completely transformed. You've integrated the transformation. Well, at that point, apart from enjoying your new transformation, your new expanded life, you want to acknowledge that. You want to acknowledge what you've achieved. And you want to actually take a moment and have a look at just how things have expanded. Like, what opportunities do you have now? What can you do now that the old structure didn't allow you to have? Because that is really why we're doing this whole thing. So the more that you can recognize that, the sooner you'll understand the value of what you've created for yourself. So they're the 5 stages of moving through a transformation, which, supposedly next year is bringing for all of us. It's meant to be a year of transformation. Personally, I think we've been going through a big transformation for a while, but that's okay. So whatever your transformation is or isn't next year, I hope that 2025 brings you some brilliant things, and that all of those things helps you to remember that you're brilliant.